Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk about the important and fascinating topic of training for emergency lock opening, which includes safes, padlocks, and other complex locking mechanisms that you might encounter. Many people are trying to learn emergency lock opening, and not everyone among those who want to learn understands how to choose the right teacher, where to gain this knowledge. First of all, you need to pay attention to the advantages over competitors. By learning this knowledge, you'll naturally try to monetize it so that it brings you some income in the future. Of course, you should realistically assess your abilities and analyze the competitor market. First of all, you need to pay attention to the advantages over your competitors. By learning this knowledge, you'll naturally try to find ways to monetize it so that it brings you some income in the future. Of course, you should realistically assess your abilities and analyze the competitor market. To outshine your competitors, you need to have either skills or a price that can compete with theirs, or both skills and a competitive price. Naturally, you must thoroughly and comprehensively assess your capabilities and analyze the competitors' market in the industry, especially in the current business landscape. And to outshine your competitors, you need to have either skills or a price that can compete with your competitors, or both skills and a competitive price. It all depends on a whole range of factors that I would like to draw your attention to today. The first thing you need to pay attention to is not the cost of training like many people do. This is the last point you need to pay attention to. This is the cost of training. In fact, there are numerous elements that play a crucial role in determining the outcome. These elements include, but are not limited to, the quality of the training program, the experience of the trainers, and the resources available to you. It is essential to consider these aspects carefully. But first and foremost, you need to pay attention to what exactly we'll be able to do. In other words, which locks will be able to open. In general, the specialists who provide training have a tendency to provide somewhat rather vague answers. So with the right tools and necessary equipment, you'll be able to open almost all locks. But with the right tools, they even overlook this little detail, that the same lock can be easily opened with different tools. One tool costs, let's say, approximately $100, $150, $200, or $300. Or there are certain instruments that are more accessible, but require more skill. If told you can open a lock with a pick, you have a pick for self-impressioning. You might open something with self-impressioning, but if you give them regular picks, they can't use them. Learning emergency lock opening means using more than drills or grinders. You should open a lock with understanding of its mechanism. This way, you can open almost any lock. If a tool is costly, you might make it yourself. Self-impressioning might open locks, but regular hooks or picks like I'm using now won't work. Learning emergency lock opening means using more than drills, grinders, or cylinder tools. Understanding the mechanism helps open locks. This way, almost any lock can be opened. If a tool is costly, you might make it yourself. Not all tools must be bought. So, after learning emergency lock opening, you should be able to work not just with a drill, a grinder, or various tools and other similar equipment for pulling out cylinders. You should be able to open a lock even with a strong understanding of how the opening mechanism works. This way, you'll be able to open almost any lock. And if a tool costs a certain amount of money, you might even be able to make that tool yourself. So not all tools need to be bought. As an example, let's consider a situation. Let's take cylinder locks as an example. The tool for opening a pin tumbler lock, which I'm currently opening, can cost around $100 to $150. This tool is meant only for opening pin tumbler locks. And the picks that I'm currently using to open this little lock can open not only pin tumbler locks, but also English locks and car locks. You can definitely see this on my channel. So by easily understanding the opening technique, you can get a set of these picks for approximately $20–30 and avoid spending a lot, which could cost you $2,000–5,000. So this is only for a specific tool. If we take, for example, lever locks, a good self-impressioning tool can cost us around 200–300 euros. Buying something less effective or of lower quality will reflect poorly on the results of your work. You shouldn't buy a self-impressioning tool for every single lock type. For instance, to open all L-bore locks, you'll need 3 to 4 self-impressioning tools, but if those locks can be opened with regular hooks and it takes between 3 to 10 minutes, then why bother buying a self-impressioning tool? Let's say that in order to successfully open all L-bores, you will need approximately 3 to 4 self-impressions. But if these locks can be opened with regular hooks and it takes between 3 to 10 minutes, why buy a self-impressioning tool for those locks? For these locks, if you can open these little locks, they can easily be opened with hooks. Or locks like the ones from Samkey, various Chinese locks. That is, for each type, if you buy self-impression, it is quite a lot of money. And if without self-impression you can no longer open anything, well, this will affect your earnings and your skills. If you don't have the skills to open locks using the most accessible methods, such as in the field of lock opening, you'll be falling behind your competitors. And stay competitive in the industry. Moreover, it is crucial to carefully consider the credentials of the people who provide the training, as they might potentially provide you with valuable opportunities to earn a significant amount of money after completing the training program. So they guide you, explain things, help you out, and even create earning opportunities for you, up to providing you with clients. They do advertising, they help you promote your channel, your websites, if you're into that, and have websites online. So this is a very important point, considering how much advertising costs on the internet. They do advertising, they help you promote your channel, your sites. If do this, have sites on the internet. So this is a very crucial and significant point, considering how much advertising expenses and costs on the internet, as you may already know. I think that's a very strong argument that you need to pay attention to on various platforms. And all these factors that I'm mentioning now will also affect the price of the training. You need to understand precisely and clearly what you will be able to open in order to. You can, for example, open safes, limbo locks, which are a type of security mechanism, can be opened in a variety of different ways depending on the method chosen. For instance, you can open a limbo lock for about 200 rubles, right? This method typically takes around 3 to 5 minutes to complete. Alternatively, you can opt to open it for a much higher cost of $3,000, which involves a more complex process and can take approximately a full day to finish. So, naturally, the price for these services depends significantly on whether there's any damage involved or not, as well as the complexity and time required for the task. So the price will, in essence, be contingent upon what exactly you are offering, in a manner of speaking, so to speak. So, you can open a limbo lock, spending approximately about 200 rubles, by making a small hole that you can later make invisible, by sealing it up or painting over it, and it will look the same. This way, it will be very cheaper and faster for the client, and it won't be a problem for you at all. So all these little details play a significant role. You also need to understand that it is important to note that both teachers and the locksmiths themselves are divided into different categories in their respective fields and specialties. So the so-called teachers, many of them have their own channels and they do regular advertising promoting locks that claim to be unpickable. In other words, they explain to people that these locks can't be picked. It is important to note that the lack of skills in these people does not necessarily imply that a specific model of a lock can't be picked. However, it is crucial to understand that this essentially indicates that this person can't pick that lock. That's probably the right way to put it. The same thing happened recently when I was discussing magnetic locks, because on some channels there are these so-called miracle specialists who have been working in the field of emergency lockpicking for 10 years and claim that they know for sure what can be picked and what can't. We've been working for 10 years, but in reality they're just promoting cheap locks, in my opinion. We've been working for 10 years, but in reality they're just promoting cheap locks, in my opinion. So they sell them as expensive, like for $100, $150, and promise that this lock can't be picked. So there are people who really understand this, showing the problems with locks and so on. And it's quite challenging to distinguish these people from one another, especially for an inexperienced user. There are also different kinds of craftsmen, and clients need to understand this. This affects the demand, the specialist's reputation, and specifically what they can do and how they do it. So there are people. The first category is the butchers, after whom, as a rule, all the work is redone by other emergency lock opening specialists. That is, they can then restore doors that have been cut with a grinder, drilled, or other tools. They can install locks after these craftsmen and other methods, and so on. Basically doing other work. There are people who, let's say, engage in vandalistic opening in various situations. At the present moment, there are a lot of companies that are taking over the work from emergency lock opening specialists because they also do emergency opening, but with the help of power tools like drills and grinders, vandalistic tools that directly pick locks. That is, they do not engage in lockpicking, they do not buy expensive master keys that need to be used to open locks. So, they just bought a drill, a disc, cut it out, broke it, drilled it out, and left you alone with your problems when you realize that they've just caused you harm, and you've already paid the money, and the so-called specialist has just disappeared. Here. And there's a third type of people, those who actually open these locks, have the proper skills, and have the tools for opening, which are quite expensive. And accordingly, the price of the professional expert very much depends on this essential tool, because their level indeed requires them to have certain necessary tools. So, the more skills a specialist has, and the more expensive the tools are, the more expensive the opening will be, because no tool lasts forever. If a person buys it, it can work for a certain amount of time, and naturally the tool needs to be replaced. That is, the manufacturer, if it is a factory tool, gives a guarantee that some tool will last approximately such and such a long time. Approximately. And from that, the price is based on the fact that a person can recoup the cost of that tool, plus the service call, plus their knowledge, skills, and time spent. And naturally, you'll get the price for that service. So who should you turn to? A vandalistic craftsman who opens these locks with damage? Or say, a person who can open it without causing any damage? Yeah, that lock. And if you have the keys at home, for example, that you forgot, because not every situation requires changing the lock. If your key is stolen or if you've lost it, then of course it's better to change the lock. So, for example, if you have your key at home, you came home with your wife or husband, forgot the key in the car, the person drove off, you went up to the house, and now there's no key, and the person can't go back. So of course you'll call a specialist who won't break your lock. The cost of locks, just like the cost of doors, is quite significant, especially in our time when the crisis has hit many countries. Changing anything should be done only as a last resort. That is when it's really necessary. Naturally, if a lock is opened with a certain tool and there's a need to replace it, the specialist should definitely advise the client that after any emergency opening, it's better to change the lock. So from then on, it all depends on the specialist. The specialist is obliged to recommend to the client to replace the lock, and if the client wants to, they can go ahead and replace it right after the opening, having certain locks on hand. That's why I'll leave the contact information of a person I recommend in the video description. So, this person is involved in emergency lock opening. He trains people, and he has a whole team of people in various countries around the world that he has trained and helps find clients and jobs, and constantly raises the level of knowledge of these people. If you want to learn, this is a recommendation. And in the next videos, I'll be discussing in depth about those people who have already trained at this school. You'll be able to see how these people work and how they have progressed over time, what their experience is like now compared to when they started out initially, their skills which they've honed meticulously through rigorous practice sessions held regularly here at our esteemed institution of learning excellence, not forgetting also mentioning all other abilities acquired along this journey too. And of course you'll understand exactly just what kind help these individuals receive continuously throughout entire process. What they have achieved, what successes they have achieved. That is, you will see all of this because you can only learn about a master by looking at their students. So I will finish this video here. I hope it was informative, comprehensive, and beneficial. For anyone and everyone who is interested in learning the skill of how to open locks in an emergency, in case of unexpected situations. If I missed something and you're curious about anything, leave your questions in the comments, and in the upcoming videos, I'll try to answer your questions. Subscribe to the channel. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. All the best.